Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brutally Honest podcast. I am your host, Kathryn Ducey. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing this episode for whatever reason. I'm always very curious why people choose episodes, just like I'm always curious why I choose certain episodes to listen to. And in today's episode, I'm going to get right into it. Okay. This is a juicy one. It's also a little bit vulnerable for me, especially because I'm still in the process of sort of working through what I'm going through. But I feel like this is a very important topic, and I wanted it to get out as soon as possible to the community. So I hope that you find something in this for you. A lot of women have come to me over the years, and they've wanted me to know that they're feeling really alone and they're feeling really isolated and empty in their marriage or in their relationship to their spouse or their partner. And I myself have experienced a lot of those similar feelings in my relationships in the past. And I didn't actually expect it to happen in my current relationship with my guy, Michael, but it is. And it's got me really curious because I believe that we are responsible for everything that's going on in our, lives. We said yes to everything. And if you look at my relationship trajectory, some of the same issues are showing up that showed up in my marriage, that showed up in a previous relationship. And well, guess who's the common denominator? Me. So I'm a little bit ashamed to share some of the things I'm going to share today and a little sheepish, but I do feel like it is my duty to share these things. It is called the Brutally Honest podcast for a reason, right? So as you know, I'm in this wonderful relationship with Michael. We met just over a year ago, and after 3 months, we moved in. But when I met Michael, I knew right away. I was like, this is my guy. I was crazy about him. I really trusted him. I really respected him. And he really cherished me. He adored me. He was sending me flowers and taking me out and couldn't keep his hands off me. And we were just like really, really in love and falling more deeply in love as the days went on. And, at the 3-month mark, we decided I was going to move in. And that was, really exciting. But something funny happened after I moved in. I started to notice all these things about Michael that I thought were bad and wrong. I started to notice that he can be messy, that he can, come home and sit on the couch and scroll his phone forever. Sometimes he can be hard on the girls. I started to notice these things, and I was trying to figure out, okay, well, how can I fix those things? As all good women do, Oh, well, I see the problem. So now I'm going to step in and I'm going to fix it. And as the days went on, as we were living together, my demeanor and my mood sort of changed from what was once respect and letting things go to this sort of attitude towards him of, listen, pal, you need to pull your socks up. Like, you need to get your life together. And I'm the perfect person to show you how to do that. So step aside, because I'm going to come in and tell you whether you want to know or not. And I have to admit, I thought that I was doing something that was really helpful. I thought that by criticizing him when he came home and saying, hey, like, we want to spend time with you. We don't feel seen by you when you're on your phone, right? When you immediately jump on your phone. I thought that that was helpful advice for him. Maybe he couldn't see it. Maybe he didn't know that it bothered us and that he was going to have these aha moments and things were going to change, So I thought that I was being really helpful. And, as more time went on, I noticed that we were in conflict a lot more. And I was doing a lot more like eye rolling at him. And that slowly over time, it felt like our intimacy, we were losing it. We were losing our intimacy. It felt like Michael was pulling away. And he wouldn't pull me into him as often as he did at one point, in the bedroom. And rather he would snuggle the dog, or he would come home and maybe give one of the girls a bigger hug than he would give to me. And it seemed like he was more excited to see one of them than he was to see me. And I just felt like he was annoyed by me, that I was being needy and that something was really wrong. So this started happening over time. And that actually had me want to fix things even more. I'm even embarrassed to admit this. I'm embarrassed to admit this. But not that long ago, I went onto the internet using my trusted personal development tools, and I decided, okay, I'm going to design this lesson for us that we're going to sit down and do, and we're going to like really flesh out our values and our non-negotiables. And, I even led him through this lesson, and, it actually went pretty well. It went really well. It was well received. We got some good insights out of it. And then, I felt like he changed a little bit that day, but things kind of went back to him sort of acting distant and me feeling like he was avoiding me. And I thought to myself, okay, well, that's not it. I know many of you are listening to this and can probably relate, right? And you might also be thinking to yourself, oh my God, I have done some of these things, right? And so this is why I thought it was really important that I share this today, because I know that things are now turning around for us and I'm seeing how quickly it's happening. And I want you guys to have access to these tools and this information, because the last thing I want is for me and my dreamy guy and I, for our relationship to end, because I really, truly in my heart believe that we're meant for each other and that we can work through this. And the last thing I want is for you and your guy and your relationship to end, because I know that you made the right decision choosing the partner you chose, just like I did. But there's something that you didn't get when you were growing up in terms of how to actually talk to a man and be in a relationship with a man, right? I'm the product of divorce, and I saw how my parents communicated. I saw how they related to each other. And I got to admit, it was terrible. It was awful. And if there was a camera in our house, I bet you there would be a lot of moments where I'm showing up the exact same way. And that's heartbreaking. That doesn't feel really good for me at all. So I got a bad template. Okay. But that's no excuse, because it's costing me my relationship and the relationship that I really want and desire and that I know is right, So I've been getting really curious about all this stuff, and I started to study some of the work that Alison Armstrong, who wrote The Queen's Code, and Laura Doyle, who wrote The Surrendered Wife. I started to study their work. And my gosh, guys, it hit. Like, it is hitting. Now, I've been studying their work for a while, but I didn't find them until after my divorce. And once I got back into a relationship, I felt like I had done all this work and that I was fine. And I couldn't actually see a lot of the stuff that I'm now seeing. So it took me a while to take a look at their work again and reread it and start to implement some of the stuff that they say. I will admit that one of the things that I've done that I am, a little embarrassed about is I have disrespected Michael. And it's not my first offense. Looking back now, I can see how I also disrespected my ex-husband, Chris, and was disrespectful towards other partners. And what I mean by that is I can sometimes be unkind and mean, and I can sometimes treat Michael and other men like I'm better than them, like they're lesser, right? Like I'm right, they're wrong, and that they need to figure their shit out, get their life together. Now, if anybody were to treat me that way, I'll be the first to admit I'd leave. That would not feel good. Or I might not leave, but I might ignore them. I might avoid them. In fact, I have had people that have treated me that way, and I just have no time for that. It doesn't make me want to be close to them. It doesn't make me want to hang out with them. It doesn't make me want to do things for them. It just makes me want to run and hide. I realize that I've been acting disrespectfully towards my dreamy guy. And one of the things that I've not been doing is not trusting him, not trusting that he's got this. And when I say that he's got this, I mean got this in his way, not he's got this in my way. Okay. How many of you are doing that right now? Right. And there's a subtle distinction, but it'll make or break your relationship. So respecting your man and trusting your man looks like he gets to be his own self and he gets to do things the way that he would like to do them. Because, ladies, your way is great, but it's not the only way, right? It's not. And that's taken me and is still taking me some time to really wrap my head around. Okay. So one of the things that I have been working on is a letting go of the control of how I think things should be done. So if Michael comes home and he needs some time to himself, right? I am not going to hover over him or kind of hang around or have some leading questions like, hey, when are you gonna want to start dinner? Right? I'm going to respect my man and I'm going to trust that he knows what's best for him. Or if my guy decides that he wants to spend our money in a certain way, right? You know, maybe it's Bitcoin. Okay. I admit, I don't know a lot about that stuff, but for whatever reason, Bitcoin kind of freaks me out. I don't know what it is. Well, I'll tell you what it is. I have a fear that there won't be enough money. Okay. I have a fear that there won't be enough money. And I've had this fear for a long time. And it's shown up in all of my stuff and all of my finances. And so I have this fear that we won't have enough money. And because I don't know much about Bitcoin, I will start to distrust him when he says, you know, I want to invest in Bitcoin. And I am fearful that it's going to go poorly and we're not going to have money. And what I'm realizing is that's my own stuff, right? That's my own stuff that we might not have enough money. And that's for me to deal with. And that also, I've got to just let that go because even if that were to happen, let's say we were to invest in Bitcoin and then, you know, it flops and we lose all our money, let him figure it out. Let him figure it out. Since when was it not okay for people to make mistakes, right? When did I, but also when did you become this sort of controller of other people's lives? And you made the decision that it wasn't okay for them to learn, to be in the process, to make mistakes. Like, what is that? And take a look, check yourself, because see, one of the things I know is I'm trying to control the image of our relationship. I don't want us to look bad, and I don't want people to think like we made some bad investments, right? And that my man's not good with finances or something ridiculous like that. Like, you have to check yourself and ask yourself what that really is about, right? Underneath the control, there is some sort of pain that you have or something you're trying to avoid happening, right? And so by me wanting to control that, it's costing us, right? It's costing us intimacy. It's costing us closeness. And when I ask myself what I really want, well, in our relationship, it's intimacy and closeness and peace. I'd rather that any day over a Bitcoin investment that goes super well. Because if we don't have the intimacy and the closeness, well, then who cares if we get a bunch of cash, you know, or money? It won't even matter, right? That's just an added bonus. So I've had to like really ask myself some super important questions that many of you are probably asking yourself as well, right? So the respect thing has been a theme for me for a long time. And, you know, I didn't see my mother respecting my birth father. And, you know, there are many ways in which she hasn't respected my stepdad. But that's their relationship. That's for them. That's none of my business. And they're adults and they get to do what they want to do. And I also get to choose what I want to do. And one of the things I really want to do is I want to show respect for my guy. Now, they say that respect is like oxygen for a man. It's oxygen for a man, just like being cherished is oxygen for a woman. And I have felt like our relationship has been stifled from oxygen. And so if I ask myself, okay, well, how do we fill up the oxygen tank? How do we get us breathing again? Well, respect is oxygen to a man. So these are things that I've been looking at. And not criticizing your partner is super important, no matter what. No matter what. Now, that for me can be tough. That can be tough because I like to be right. I think that my shit doesn't stink sometimes. I think that, because I've done all this personal development work, that like I know things that he doesn't. And that has given me some sort of like pass to criticize him. Oh gosh. And to disrespect him. And I have stifled our relationship in that perspective. As much as I'm embarrassed to admit that, it's important that I am able to admit what I now know so that I can start to course correct. So respect has been key. Trust has been key. I have had to surrender so much of my control and trust him with the investments he wants to make, trust him in the decisions he's making about his career. I've had my own thoughts about what I think Michael should do. Leave it up to me. If it were up to me, he would leave his government job and start to do something that I know he's really even more passionate about. And I can see how I think that I'm right about it. And it has really taken a lot for me to relinquish the control and just trust the guy. Trust that his government job and what he's doing is what he's meant to do. And to let him handle it. You handle it. It's not up to me. You're an adult. So trust has been a big thing. Even trusting in small things. Like trusting that if I don't do his laundry, he will. Whenever he wants to, at some point. There's been a little bit of what I would call like the mother-son dynamic in our relationship that, ladies, I'm shocked that I've created this dynamic, okay? I am always preaching, do not mother your partner. Do not mother your man. And there are so many subtle ways in which I have been that once I found out, I was crushed. I was totally heartbroken. My God, I've been doing that. I didn't know. And I'm going to forgive myself and have some compassion for myself. But I can do hard things because it's hard for me to stop. It is. I have a certain way that I like things to be. And I feel like my way is the best way. And this is hard. I'm not going to lie. It's hard. But the cost of me continuing to mother Michael, it's not worth it. The cost of entry, not worth it to me at all. Because it just leaves me feeling alone and empty and disconnected from my dreamy guy. We can't have that. So there's the trust piece. The other piece is, this was completely shocking to me. I thought I was really good at self-care, okay? I am good at self-care. I will say, I know that that's a priority for me. I know that, when I fill my cup first, I'm much better for him and for my girls and our family. But I noticed a couple of months ago that I kept saying to Michael, like, I'm just not happy. I'm just not happy. And sort of alluding to, it's your job, pal, to make me happy. When are you going to make me happy? You're not doing your job. In fact, you're failing miserably at it. And guys, again, a little sheepish to admit this, a little ashamed to admit this, but I had started to get so wrapped up in things looking and being a certain way in our home and with the kids and everything like that, that I was compromising my own self-care and not prioritizing it and then making it his fault. Okay. So if you want to have a successful relationship with a man, I mentioned, okay, so you want to show him respect, right? No rolling your eyes, no criticizing him, no being his mother, no teaching him, even some of the ways that you think you're not, but it's very subtle. Don't do it. And you want to show him you trust him. That's a big one. And then you can't make him responsible for your happiness. You are responsible for your happiness. So I took a look at some of the things that I'm doing that, I think are filling my cup, and I had to question some of them. I really love getting up in the morning and I love walking the dog. That feels good. But if I were to ask myself, like, is that filling my cup really? Like, does that really light me up? The answer is no. That's been one of my self-care things. Wow. So I had to get really crystal clear on like, okay, what actually lights me up. Now, you all know, if you've been following me for a long time, going to a specialty coffee cafe, getting a gorgeous flat white with regular milk, and sitting down and just taking in the beautiful environment, or maybe interacting with someone there, or doing a story from my Instagram from there, it feels super good. And I did stop doing that. I stopped doing that a couple of months ago because we were in Costa Rica, but then also because I was trying to cut back on cost. I was trying to cut back on cost while I'm not bringing in a ton of revenue right now because I'm building this intellectual property, this IP, the podcast. I decided, I'm not going to go and do that anymore. And guys, it has cost me. It's cost me actually my happiness and feelings of abundance, right? Well, now I realize that was silly to do that. And my own fears got in the way of, I'm not going to have enough money. There's never going to be enough money. And I realized, I'm creating that mess right now by not going and filling my cup, right? And then allowing my guy to also support me in helping me figure out, okay, well, if you do that, if you do go and get the coffee, well, what's something we can do to support that money going out, even just allowing him to figure it out for me, because I've always got to figure it all out on my own, right? Men want to serve you. They want to please you. They really do. You have to study men as men and not study men as the woman you want him to be. Okay. If someone did that to you and, studied you as the man they want you to be, you would be pissed. You'd be very confused. Okay. Because you're a woman. Okay. So that would be a standard that you don't want to be held to. And you would feel very put off by that, not seen, maybe a little offended. I realized that I wasn't totally filling my own cup, and I was waiting for Michael to make me happy. I wasn't making myself happy. I was waiting for Michael to make me happy. So there are things now that I realize, I just have to do. I've got to fill my cup first. I've got to do what lights me up, right? I love cleaning the house in the morning. I love walking the dog, but does it make me feel this overwhelming sense of happiness? No, I just like a clean house and I like to get the dog walked. Okay. So coffee at a beautiful cafe does that for me for sure. Engaging with my Instagram community lights me up. I love DMing with people first thing. That gets me super stoked, especially at a cafe. I just feel so much abundance and connection. And after I do it, I feel energized. I feel like I've just filled my gas tank up with really high quality gas. So that's really important for me. And that makes me happy. And guess who's been off Instagram for a couple months? Yours truly, right? So, even though I did need to take a break from some of this stuff, those breaks also showed me what was filling my gas tank with that really premium gas all the time that I maybe was taking for granted at one point. So I'm responsible for my happiness, not my guy. And the last thing that I'll say that I have stopped doing, and this is a big one, this one rocked me. It totally rocked me. Okay. And I think it's going to rock some of you as well. The way in which I had been expressing my needs was something to the effect of, you need to do this because I'm feeling this way and you're not being kind, you're being distant, you're being avoidant, what's going on? There was a lot of accusations and demands. I was acting like an entitled little girl. And I couldn't see it, guys, until I saw it and I went, wow. And it really put things into perspective. And I saw his perspective, why he's been distant or why he had been distant and pulling back and almost avoiding me. And I just saw that I had been barking orders kind of. I realized that, again, this was my unskillful way of expressing my own desires and my own needs. And the unskillful way I was doing that was just what I saw my parents do. Still no excuse. So rather than barking orders and saying, you need to do this, or you need to stop doing this, or whatever it is, I started to just say to him, I can't do that. So what was happening was I was actually doing things that I didn't want to do and they were stressing me out. Okay. And I was trying to get Michael's attention on those things. I was like, how come he doesn't realize that this stresses me out? And why does he expect me to do these things? And blah, blah, blah. And or also being like, well, Kathryn, you should be doing those things in my own head, right? And so I started to realize that the way I was articulating myself to Michael, it wasn't landing. Okay. I don't know if you know this, but like with dogs, you always want to name them a 2-syllable name because the first syllable, they hear they hear you. And then the second syllable, then you've got them. Okay. So it's like Johnny. So if you just say John, he's like, okay, I'm here. But like, there's something about the second syllable that they also need in order to get that. Okay. You need my attention. All right. And so once you start to understand language and how language works and how men need to be communicated with, it's a total game changer. Total game changer. Men do not respond to the type of communication that women respond to, okay, because they're men. And so I started to understand and study that men, it's very simple. You need to use language like, I want this. So maybe it's, I want a raincoat. I want a raincoat. And because it's rainy in Vancouver and I don't have a raincoat and I walk dogs, I want a raincoat. And then just leave it. Okay. Don't bring it up again. Don't drop subtle hints about what kind of raincoat you want, where to get the raincoat, or anything like that. Okay. You just need to express, I want a raincoat, and then leave it with him. And then when he delivers, which he will, on the raincoat, you receive the gift from him. You receive whatever it is that he is bringing to you because see, men love to please and they want to give you gifts, right? But like we'll have some sort of, I don't know, either you have a hard time receiving, right? So you might say, oh, honey, you didn't need to get me that, right? And then you're micromanaging him or micromanaging the household finances again, right? Oh, that's a lot of money that you spent on me. Like whatever you're doing, start to notice. Women are meant to receive. Okay. And there's nothing sexier than a woman who receives from a man and receives a gift, right? The gift that he chose for you. So you want to express the need. I want this. And then you want to just leave it. And then you just want to trust. And then whatever comes back, you want to receive. And you want to watch how that just, first of all, lights him up when you receive it, but also how much closer you guys get. I've tested this. It's amazing what happens. So it's all in how you say things. Okay. Again, men receive things differently than women in terms of when you're talking to them. So I want this, not you need to do this, or would it be okay? Or can I ask you a favor? That doesn't work. You're going to end up being disappointed. Okay. Either he's going to reject you and then you're going to be upset about it, or he's going to say, okay, well, let me think about it. And then you're going to be upset about that. Don't do that. Just say, I want this. And the other thing I stopped doing, the last thing I'll say, and this is again around language, I stopped telling him that I needed to set boundaries with him. I stopped telling him that I was pissed and that he can't talk to me that way, right? Because sometimes he can be harsh. He can. I stopped doing that. All right. So I would love to hear what happens when you take some of these suggestions, if you do. I would love to hear some of the outcomes and the miracles. I promise you are going to start to see miracles and they're going to happen fast. They happened really fast for us. And I'm just so excited. I'm so passionate about this, guys. You know, I've worked with women all over the world for years. And I got to say that there's been some insights and advice that I've given that I wouldn't give today. I wouldn't. And I can own that. I can be honest about that, you know. I also think that there's a lot of advice and insights out there, you know, from marriage therapists and counselors and all that stuff that I think is really unhelpful, okay? Because first of all, I've been trained on some of that and it doesn't work. I've tried it. It doesn't work, okay? And I've heard from a lot of my clients who have tried implementing a bunch of that stuff and it doesn't work. In fact, I think something that's really not a good idea is suggesting that you go to therapy or counseling with your guy. Because I want you to remember underneath that, like take a look. What you're saying is, I promise you're thinking this because I was too. Pal, you got to get your shit together. So we got to go to therapy so they can tell you that. All right? Be honest. Okay? And then it just doesn't work. Okay? Because they end up doing some interesting stuff around everyone's 100% accountable for their part, which like, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. But there's actually a way that you're supposed to talk to a man that inspires him and that draws him near you, closer to you, and that magnetizes him. And they're not talking about that. I promise you, they're not. Okay? I've been there. They're not. All right? So guys, what I've really wanted and what I've been really yearning for is peace, but also for us to feel close again, right? For that intimacy to be there, for Michael to look at me the way he did at one point, for him to pull me in the way he was, and to feel wanted and to feel cherished. And I have to say, it's working, and way faster than I thought it would. So use me as proof that this stuff really works. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it's easy. It is hard because you have to relinquish all the control, okay? And you have to trust. And you have to stop thinking that your way is the right way. And you have to be uncomfortable. But we can do hard things, okay? You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. I promise you. So I really look forward to you testing some of these. Take them for a spin. Go into the change room. Put them on, Go see how it goes. And send me a DM or leave a comment, right? And let me know. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for your marriage. I'm rooting for your relationship. You've got this. So often, what we think is the problem isn't the problem. And even if you think like your relationship is really done right now, I promise you, if you try out some of these things, you are going to see some miracles happening. And you might be able to save a relationship that at one point you chose for the right reasons. And you just need to get back to that time where you were respectful, you were trusting in your receivership, right? And you weren't mothering your guy. Because nobody likes that. No man wants to have sex with their mother. Terrible. Right? And on that note, and please, if you found this episode helpful, please share it or subscribe, leave a comment. It means the world to me. And I cannot wait to hear any and all feedback that you might have. All right, cuties. Here's to another episode of the Brutally Honest podcast. And I cannot wait to see you next time. Mwah.